Yo, 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 what's going on, good people? It's your boy 3 Stacks in this thing, baby. Representing Team Kings of Games. And you guys see what deck I got for you? Yeah, this is an update for Phantasm Spirals. This deck is probably one of the funnest stun decks I've ever played. What I like about it is it's not so boring. It's not really as boring and proactive as your average stun deck, like Barrier Statue Stun, you know, like True Draco Floodgate Stun. Guru Control is a little bit more reactive because they're not always preventing the actions. They're kind of reacting to it when it happens. So Guru Control is kind of similar. But this deck is a lot more reactive, and that's what makes it more enjoyable and fun, is that you get to actually interact with your opponent versus just flip a Floodgate and kind of just tell them they can't play. So I'm going to hop into the main deck. For those of you who do not know about Phantasm Spirals, I think that you should do a little bit of research. Look up this deck and check it out. It's really easy to build. It's like none of the cards are expensive at all. It's not necessarily like the easiest deck to play. It does have somewhat of a skill cap. It's a little bit more sophisticated than people think it is. There's a lot more that you can do with it when you apply that high skill level. But I do think that it's a really fun role contender, and it can really dominate some of the best decks, especially if it wins a dice roll, because this deck going uncontested can really be the demise of some of the best decks out there, no matter what deck it is. And of course, you can modify the main deck. You can play specific floodgates like anti-spells and Gozens and rivalries, and there can only be ones, and that'll give you an easier matchup all across the playing field. But anyways, let's go ahead and hop into it. We have 2 copies of Phantasm Spiral Dragon. So a lot of people either play one or none of this card. The reason why I've always played 2, and I have over a year of experience with this deck now. This deck actually came out in Maximum Crisis in 2017. Haven't been playing it that long, but I do have over a year experience playing it, and I realized more and more. The first couple months, I was trying just one him, and I call him Big Daddy. In real life, this is the Big Daddy. More and more, I was realizing that you can actually kill your opponent turn 2. You can turn 1 setup, turn 2 kill if you have a second one. Because what you end up doing is when you actually play the equips, you can basically bring the first one out on the equip and then use the Phantasm Trap that uses banishes itself and puts an equip from your hand to a normal monster you control. Then you equip it to the newly summoned Big Daddy. You swing with that and use that equip spell and bring out this Big Daddy and switch the equip to him, and then you go for game. So for that reason alone, that's why you play 2. You don't want to give your opponent another turn. A lot of people don't think this deck can kill you out of nowhere, but it really can without a Boar Sword. This deck can kill you literally in just 1 turn. That's all it needs. It needs 1 turn to set up, and then that's why I say first turn set up, second turn kill. Because it looks slow on pen and paper, and they think, oh, it just generates a token and sits on it. It's not going to do anything. But that's incorrect. If you play the equip spells, you get very aggro. A lot of players don't play the equip spells. I don't believe in that. But 2 Big Daddies. I also am playing 2 Megalo Smashers. I just don't want to draw that many monsters. I really feel even 4 is too much. My other list, I was just playing 2 of this alone. But I have this new spicy tech that I'm trying out in my main deck that I need this as a target, because I'm getting access to this. You can't do it turn 1. You can only access this through the equips. That means you have to battle to do it. So you need a valid target for my new spice. And this card just triggers your field spell whenever you, on your first turn, you can normally trigger your field spell. And then you get to capitalize off of one of the +1s that I play, which is, it's the spice. It's the spice. I hope you guys are ready for that spice too. That's it for the monsters, because the spice is really unexpected. I was checking out to see if anybody was playing it first, because I don't ever want to hype something up and make it seem like, oh, like he just came up with something or he just thought something crazy if everybody was just playing it. But I don't really see not too many people playing this card right here. White Elephant's Gift. It's a really old card. I did my research thorough. Every time I'm trying to make decks better, I do research. That's how I get my text. I don't get my text from like trying to see somebody on YouTube doing a deck profile or like net decking or anything. I get my text from research. I research the Yu-Gi-Oh database, and I look up cards. For example, I'll look up something like draw spells that have draw spells that work with normal monsters. When I looked up draw spells that work with normal monsters, I found this. Like, that's how I get my text. That's how you can get your spicy text. You don't need to get them from anybody. You don't need to steal ideas from anybody or net deck or anything. Just do your research and you'll find them. This card sends a non-effect monster to the graveyard to draw 2. The reason why you need this for a valid target is because you can't summon this out turn 1, right? So this would be dead turn 1 if I was playing only this as a target. And your tokens cannot go to the graveyard. So because your token, even though it's a non-effect monster, it would be a valid target. Because the token cannot go to the graveyard, you can't resolve this to draw 2. You'll try to send it, but you won't draw 2. But when you normal this guy, trigger your field spell to search, then you send him away, you will draw 2. So, yep, that's why we're playing Megalo Smasher, and he's still a 2,000 beater. So 3 Elephant's Gift, it's basically a draw 2 that's not once per turn. It can be like Pot of Greed when your normal summon pays for itself through the field spell. And you have a lot of +1s and +2s. Sometimes it's even +3s. Starting off with more draw spells, we have 3 Card Demise. So I still believe that Demise is the correct card to play in this deck. I still play Extravagance as well. I know a lot of people find that to be crazy. People think, oh, it conflicts. The way I see it, my mindset was if you draw it, you draw it. If you don't, you don't. If you don't draw Extravagance, you still need +1s because this deck, the way that it interacts with your opponent is all through 1-for-1s. When I say 1-for-1, I'm very literal. 1 card for 1 card. So my 1 card trades out for your 1 card. So I'm trading 1-for-1s. So because a lot of my interactions are trading 1-for-1s, I need to be able to replenish the resources that I have expended. I need to be able to maximize on the advantage that I can get out of cards like these to keep my resources either on par in equivalence or exceeding my opponent, so that I don't ever get into a awkward grind game where I've 1-for-1 my opponent and I'm down to top decking when I'm playing against a deck that can top deck anything godly and just come back on me. But playing cards like these allow you to just dig deeper into your deck, keep excess resources, and also just allow you to keep up with your opponent. Sometimes out-resource them. I used to play Shared Rides, but I cut them for the White Elephants because I actually just like it better. It's something that I can play turn 1, and I have enough reactive cards. But you could play Shared Ride. And then I played 3 Extravagance. People are going to say, oh, it conflicts with your draw spells. Yeah, that's if you draw it. And if I draw it, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to save it for next turn. That's what I'm going to do. And you know what that means? That means I can 1-for-1 my opponent, get low on resources. They'll think I'm top decking, but I have this set in my back row. I'll flip this, and I'll basically get to draw 2 plus my draw for turn, which means I've just got myself back into the game. And your field spell also allows you to plus on your opponent's turn. So you have ways where you can out-resource your opponent. It just depends how your hand looks and what you draw into. So I don't care that I can draw this off of Gift. I don't care that I can draw it off of Demise. And I draw it, oh, I can't activate it. But one thing I rarely do is when I draw this card during my first turn, activate it. Because if I draw this with Demise and Elephant's Gift and, like, for example, the Desires that I play, I don't activate it. But if I draw this and this is the only draw card in my hand, I'll do it. I'll play it to get that +1. And any other draws cards that I draw after that, I'll save them. Because this deck can afford to take turns off. It does play very slow on your first turn. Your second turn is when you get really aggressive. So it's not like you have to resolve every single card in your hand, like thinking, oh, I might not ever get a chance again. Because you can really slow the tempo down to your pace, and then you crank it up and go aggro on your turn out of nowhere. I do play 2 Desires in the deck. I just really like the +1s that this deck provides. And the fact that you can play so many powerful spells that draw 2 really gives this deck an advantageous edge in the competitive format and all across the playing field, because that's the only way you can really keep up with these decks. You can 1-for-1 a Sky Striker deck, and they'll still beat you because they have multi-roll, Kagari, and also Engage. You don't have cards like that, so you need to try to be as unfair as you possibly can with cards like these. Continuing with the spells, the next portion of the spells is Searchers. We have 3 Duality. Duality is going to search out any of these. I want to reveal a card that says draw 2, or in Demise's case, draw 3. That's what I really want. But other than that, Duality is going to dig for your field spell. Because you need a very specific setup for this deck, it's very important to play all these draw spells. Some might look at this and think, oh yeah, that's perfect. Everything can be seen. Some might look at this display and think, that's too much, bro. You're playing too many draw spells. It's overkill. It's not, because there are very, very specific cards that I need to see. Like, for me, my ideal opening is to have the field spell, to have a Megalo Smasher, to have a Torrential Tribute, and to already have a Phantasm Spiral spell or trap. And the perfect board is just to have Torrential Strike plus the field spell and a Megalo Smasher, because Torrential Strike can break almost any board, especially if you get to go first. So because there are specific boards that I want to see, and very, very specific, like card name specific setups, I need all the draw power, because I need a Torrential in my hand, I need a Strike, I need my field spell, and I want my Megalo Smasher so that I can set up by normal summoning and triggering my field spell turn 1 and have a valid target for my Phantasm Spirals to play themselves, and if I want to, from hand. So yeah, Duality is justified. And I do play 3 Fossil Digs as well. I was actually considering just cutting it down to 2 because I'm only playing 2 Megalo Smashers. But I want you guys to know that I only have 2 Megalo Smashers. Otherwise, I would just play 3 Megalo Smashers and cut one of the Fossil Digs. Because I only really want to play, realistically, 5 copies of it. But since I only have 2, I had to circumvent by playing 3 Fossil Digs. You do not have to play Fossil Digs at all. But I think that for this deck to work the most efficient way, sometimes it's really important to be able to trigger this of your own free will. Because this field spell, it can trigger through your opponent activating a card or effect, but that means you're relying on your opponent playing, which means sometimes the card you need to search, you might search it after your opponent has resolved an effect that you want it to stop. But being able to search out the card that you need by normal summoning Megalo Smasher means when that interaction comes up, you can stop it before it actually resolves. I hope that makes sense. If you play Phantasm Spirals, you understand exactly where I'm coming from. And then their field spell, I have never seen a field spell quite as unique as this one. Pacifist the Phantasm City. Basically, what it does is it says if you normal or special summon exactly 1 normal monster, you can add 1 Phantasm Spiral card from your deck to your hand. So it searches your Big Daddy, it searches your traps, and it searches your equips. So you have a lot of targets to search. Also, in addition to that, if your opponent activates a card or effect, you can special summon a Phantasm Spiral token from to your field, and it'll be a level 8 water with 2,000 attack and 2,000 defense. That is a good Champion's Vigilance target. I want to play Champion's Vigilance, but I don't have them right now. So it's really strong because it allows you to basically play on your opponent's turn because they decided to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And it gives you that free body, which is a normal monster, which allows you to trigger your traps because you can only activate the Phantasm Spiral traps if you control a normal monster. And that's the only way that you can do it. So yeah, this field spell is really important. This is how you can keep up with your opponent if you're 1-for-1ing them and you're running low on resources. Triggering this to get a token and get your another search of your traps that are not once per turn is insane. And the effect of this card to search is not hard once per turn. It's soft once per turn, which is where Metaverse can be very good. The shenanigans with Metaverse and Torrential Tribute, where you can torrential a board, clear your own token, activate Metaverse on resolution, and then the next action your opponent commits, you get another token and another search. So sometimes that could just be bonkers. Yeah, the deck is pretty skillful, I would say. It's really good. You really just got to practice with it, and you got to be patient. 2 terraformings, because the field spell is that important. And then a win condition that this deck plays really effectively is Heat Wave, because you don't play any effect monsters in your deck. You're never going to summon them. I don't ever summon from my extra deck ever. I used to play Link Spider Turbo back, like, I'd say 11 months ago, but no, I'm sorry, it wasn't 11 months ago. It was 8 months ago. But Link Spider Turbo just ain't good, man. It ain't. But 3 Heat Waves, man, it's a win condition by itself. When you draw this going first, you probably will win the duel if you're playing a deck that's not Sky Strikers. Sky Strikers don't need a summon necessarily to play, but if you're playing Danger Thunders and Salamangrates and combo decks like that and Pendulums, you can actually just blow them out because you can OTK out of nowhere with this deck. So Heat Wave is a really strong card in this deck, and it doesn't hurt you at all. Then for the equips, I play 1 Grip and 1 Crash. I think that Grip is better than Crash because it can just burn your opponent for 1,000, and it gives that monster the boost for 500. But Crash is easier to resolve because all you need to do is do battle damage to your opponent, where this one needs to destroy a monster by battle. So there's pros and cons for each, but they're both really good cards. And I hate banishing them off of Desires. That's one thing that I do hate, but it's a risk I'm willing to make. It's a risk I'm willing to take because I just like the draw power in the deck. You play more spells than you play traps. So a lot of people will think, oh, like if I reboot him, he can't play. If I get rebooted, I can still play because my field spell allows me to generate advantage, and I can OTK under a reboot, which is really cool. So next up for the traps, we have 3 Metaverse because your field spell is that important, and it doesn't have an effect on activation, so you can activate it through Metaverse and then trigger it on your opponent's turn. And then this is our Poor Man's Infinite Impermanence. It also can be activated in damage step because it reduces the monster's attack and defense by 1,000, and they have graveyard effects. Power allows you to grind. So what Power does in Graveyard, it banishes itself, target a normal monster you control, equip a Phantasm Spiral equip card from your hand or graveyard to that normal monster. From hand or grave. That's actually nuts. And then Battle is basically a Raigeki break. It can target a card in the field and destroy it. And then it banishes itself from the grave to target 1 normal monster and move all equipped spells that you control from 1 normal monster to another normal monster. That's how you do your OTK. So whenever you want to OTK, that's how you do the double Phantasm Spiral Big Daddy. Is you basically you trigger your field spell, so you're gonna special summon one off of the first equip, trigger your field spell to search, and then the one you search can be activated from your hand in battle phase by banishing power and equipping it to the next Big Daddy that you summon, and that will go for your OTK push. And it's really cool how you get to do that. A lot of people don't see it coming. But basically, your Impermanence and your Trident, so to speak, it just pops a card. Very strong interruptions by themselves, and they also, again, they're the 1-for-1s I was mentioning, and they're not once per turn. I do play 3 Torrentials. A lot of people don't respect Torrential. A lot of people don't play around Torrential. I think that people should. Fun note, people would ask, why don't I play Trap Trick? Now, the reason why I don't really play Trap Trick and I don't necessarily like it all the time in this deck is because sometimes it comes up where I have really good back rows and I have to activate all of them first and then resolve Trap Trick because it'll be the last trap. The trap that I set will be the last one that I can activate. And then the problem arises where you're banishing a Torrential to set a Torrential that you can't really use because you're waiting to make it the last trap you activate, or you're banishing one of the Phantasm Spirals that you can already search out in the first place, or you're banishing a Metaverse to set it where you already have so many ways to search your field spell. So, like, I can understand the reasoning behind Trap Trick, why people just think on pen and paper. People that don't play this deck think, oh, it's good because you play normal traps, but it's really not what you think. But anyways, continuing, we have 3 copies of Solemn Strike, very reactive card. You can play this card going second. In tandem with cards like Torrential, Lost Wind, there can only be one, and also your Phantasm Spiral traps, you can break boards. More specifically, there can only be one, and Torrential back with the Solemn Strike. Like, if you go second, you lose a dice roll, and your opponent has this crazy established board, and you're like, oh, I think I lose. If you just find a way to get to these cards with all your billions of draw cards, you can just set this, flip this on their draw phase, they try to negate it, chain strike. If they don't have a counter trap, they can't respond. The entire field has been simplified. And now you can 1-for-1 them and seize control of the duel. So that's why I really think it's important for me personally to see a Solemn Strike as quickly as possible. And that's the main deck. It's 50-card main deck. Call me crazy if you want. Extra deck. Extra deck doesn't matter, so I'm just going to show it. I don't actually summon any of these. It's for extravagance. I don't go into my extra deck because I don't like controlling monsters that are not normal monsters. So I guess you could technically play non-effect link monsters, but like all the non-effect link monsters require multiple monsters, and you don't really get that you don't have, I guess you could say, you don't have that benefit in this deck. Like, you don't get that luxury of just being able to use your monsters willy-nilly for the link summon of a monster that doesn't even matter. It's all main deck focused. That's really cool about it, that you don't need your extra deck. That's why extravagance is so good in this deck. And also, if your opponent has an Amorphage monster, it doesn't matter because you don't need your extra deck. So there are some interactions that will come up in modern-day competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! That your opponent will think that will hurt you or shut you down, and they won't because you're playing Phantasm Spirals and you're not playing meta. I'm shuffling my deck because I'm about to do a quick test hand just to kind of show you guys, give you a little quick understanding on just how consistent the deck really is. It can set up pretty fast, and I also like that it can play under Colossus very well because it can actually just draw into the cards it needs versus searching them. You do play a couple searchers, being the Terraformings, the Dualities, and the Fossil Digs, but your draw spells outnumber your search spells. So you can set up pretty easily with the deck, and I like that. All right, so let's do this. Oh yeah, and if you're wondering about Infinite Impermanence, my Infinite Impermanence, I'm trying to find them, bro. I'm trying to find them. They were in my Orcus, then I took them out because I didn't want to play hand traps in my Orcus anymore. And then I was like, what the heck, bro? Where did I put these cards? Like, I have so many cards, and they get mixed up sometimes. And then sometimes it's in my big old, I have this Ottoman with like 3,000 cards in it. Sometimes it get mixed up in there. Whenever it gets mixed up in there, I'm like, I don't even feel like looking through this because that's just too much. All right, so let's see what we draw. The City, Power, we drew Big Daddy, Fossil Dig, and Extravagance. See, we drew Extravagance with no other draw spells in hand. That's the thing I mentioned in the profile where, like, that's when I'll activate it. So we'll activate Extravagance. Doesn't matter what we banish because we don't use our extra deck. We do it to Demise. Now we can use Demise for a follow-up. So we've got +1. We can go ahead and activate our Field Spell, activate our Fossil Dig. We can grab Megalo. We can normal Megalo, trigger our Field Spell, and we will grab, since we have a power, we want to go ahead and grab a battle. You just want to have both of them because one might come up, and you just want to have both of them in case one comes up and the other doesn't. Whereas you having two powers and you're like, I need a battle, and you don't have it. And you can actually just set the Torrential, and you can keep these in hand because these are actually hand traps with your Field Spell up. That's a fun fact. So you basically have 4 interruptions. Actually, it's 3, but you're going to get a 4th off the Field Spell. So we'll keep the Field Spell there. You can just power your opponent, battle your opponent, Torrential, you know, and the second they activate something, trigger the Field Spell, special token, and search. And normally after a Torrential, you can just follow up with another battle, and that should be good. But if the Torrential was enough, I'd say search out your Equip Spell. And now you can go for the OTK. If your opponent has just one monster left after the Torrential, like they found a way to reestablish, you can grab Grip. If not, you can just get Crashed. But either way, just get an Equip. And you'll save Demise if your OTK doesn't go through. So next you'll equip this. And by the way, this is the token. I should have just put that there. You'll equip this to the token. You'll go into battle phase. You'll attack. Trigger this. And you'll special summon Big Daddy. And once you summon him, you're going to trigger your Field Spell's effect to search. Then this is going to be equipped to him. Then you're going to burn your opponent for 1,000. And now he's at 34. And the Field Spell is going to search you out, the second equip. And this is the OTK that I was mentioning. And now what you're going to do is activate Power from Grave. You're going to banish it and equip this Crash from your hand to the Big Daddy that just got newly summoned. And then you're going to use him, swing for 34, trigger this Crash, and then special summon this Big Daddy from your hand deck or grave, by the way. And then move this equip to him. Then you swing for 29 again, and that's game. And if it isn't, you have Demise and Duality for your follow-ups. But if you knew it wasn't going to be game, you don't commit, you don't special, you just go for Demise and Duality and load up on more traps. And that way, once you load up on more traps, you'll buy yourself some more time so that you can give it a second shot with your OTK. And if you're ever going for the OTK and the first attempt fails, because the Phantasm Spirals can get the equips back from the grave to a valid target, you can attempt the OTK again, getting both Big Daddies out the graveyard because the equip special from hand, deck, or grave, and power can add from the graveyard to the field. And let's do. Okay, that's nuts. That's nuts. Let's go ahead and Desires. Let's see what we bench. Luckily, we have one equip, so I know that even if I banish one of the equips, it's fine because we need at least one to try to go for a big push. That's 5 banished. That's 5 banished. That's 10. And now we're going to draw a White Elephant's Gift and a Solemn Strike. And we banished a Daddy, a Megalo. That's fine. We didn't banish 3 of anything. That's all that's important. Yeah, we can still play. All right. So next up, we still haven't seen our Field Spell. We're going to Fossil Dig for a Megalo Smasher. Strongly considering just picking up a 3rd copy of him and then cutting Fossil Dig down to 2 and bumping him, the physical copy of him, to 3 because of that issue with Desires. And then we'll normal him. We'll activate White Elephant's Gift, send him away, and we'll draw 2. We drew a Strike and a Duality. Then we'll activate the Duality. Metaverse, Card of Demise, Fossil Dig. We'll grab the Card of Demise. We saw Metaverse and Fossil Dig. We don't need Fossil Dig anymore. We already have a Metaverse. So the Card of Demise is just the smartest choice. And you don't be crazy and don't activate Demise right now. You have too many back rows as it is. You're just going to Metaverse on your opponent's draw phase. If they try to Ash, strike the Ash because you need your Field Spell up. And once you get the Field Spell up, it gets pretty easy because now if your opponent makes plays, you can like strike and strike, trigger the Field Spell, summon a token because they're playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And then you get to search out. Since you have enough effect negation, I'd go for the battle because you already have effect negation in the form of strikes. So then you can go for battle. Then you can play battle from hand, play the battle on field. And you've basically disrupted your opponent 4 times. Combo decks normally can't really play through double strike and then 2 pops. And if they do, they can't normally OTK you. Then we'll draw. We drew a duality. I'd say since we banished the Big Daddy and we know it's impossible to OTK, I'd say we load up on traps again and we just go for a little push. So duality. I'll get the Lost Wind because I could always search that Spiral Battle. So I'll grab the Lost Wind. And then that Demise, remember, that's all I was telling you about, like, how the deck can afford to take turns off. So you can hold draw spells and use them the next turn to reestablish. You guys are literally seeing exactly what I said. You 1-for-1 and you run low on resources. Like, I don't just say stuff just to say it. Like, I really do be telling the truth. Draw 3. The Terraform is pretty dead. The Demise, that ain't that bad. We'll set them all, though. And we have Torrential, Lost Wind. Torrential and Lost Wind are the back rows that actually are reactive. We can Lost Wind our opponent and Torrential and then trigger the field spell again because they'll play Yu-Gi-Oh! The token will get us a power, let's say. Let's say, like, the Lost Wind wasn't enough negation, you can power your opponent. So you can resolve power, negate one of their cards, and you can also use power and damage step. And let's say your opponent tried to declare an attack. So that's a hindsight play I didn't realize. So the equip spell that I had, I would just let it go to the grave. I would discard it off Demise. I wouldn't set it. Because I just realized something that could come up is that if our opponent tries to basically attack into the token, we could, for example, we could use the Lost Wind and damage step. Or we can go on attack declaration, activate Lost Wind, chain power, still on attack declaration, equip crash from grave to field. This is some really cool high IQ plays you can make in this deck. And then they'll proceed into damage count, damage step, and the token will be bigger than whenever they're attacking because you halved it permanently. And power also reduced whatever was there as well. And you get to trigger the equip on your opponent's turn and you summon out Big Daddy, which will also put a big body on board, and then you switch this to him. And now you have that huge beater on your field. And we have a duality and a Demise again. That's crazy. That's crazy. We can go for White Elephant's Gift. Because the Big Daddy actually can be brought back off of the graveyard. So I'd say go battle phase first, swing with him, swing with the token. Then main phase 2, activate the gift, send him off, draw 1, draw 2. We drew, there can only be one in Heat Wave. You guys are kind of getting the gist of it, and then you can Demise and reload again. 1, 2, 3. Well, you'll set these first, then you'll Demise, and then I'd say set these and let the Terraform fall. But you guys are getting the gist. You're consistently re-establishing 5 back rows every single turn. So you guys are understanding this deck really is actually good. It's a really awesome deck. I tried my hardest to make it good. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. God bless you guys. Make good choices. Don't hurt your brain cells. Stay tuned for future content. And you folks have a beautiful day, all right? Stay positive. Peace.